You want your life to change? Then understand this: life does not bend for the impatient, nor reward the unprepared. Until you master these truths, you will be like a man trying to sail without wind, blaming the sea for his stillness. Let us begin where every true transformation begins, within the walls of the mind. We live in an age where the loudest voices are those shouting about how the world must change to accommodate. Politicians must shift their policies, employers must soften their demands, friends must treat them in a specific way, and strangers must align with their beliefs. And when this does not happen, frustration grows like a poison. But here is the truth the Stoics knew so well. The more you try to control what lies outside you, the more powerless you become. Epictetus, a man born into slavery yet freer in spirit than most emperors, taught that we are not disturbed by events but by the view we take of them. This is not poetry. It is a law of life. Think for a moment about how much of your daily frustration is rooted in things you cannot control. The weather shifts and you curse the rain. A driver cuts you off and your pulse quickens. A friend forgets to call and you feel slighted. Each of these moments is a tug at your emotional leash, and if you live like this, you are not the master of your own mind. You are a puppet dancing whenever the world pulls a string. But here's the shift. The Stoic takes the scissors and cuts those strings one by one. How? By learning to separate what is theirs from what belongs to fate. Your thoughts, your choices, your words, your actions. These are yours. The weather, the actions of others, the turning of fortune's wheel. These are not. This is not an invitation to be passive, nor is it a call to indifference. It is a strategy of power. For the more you anchor yourself in the sphere of what you can command, the more influence you actually gain. You cannot force the wind to blow, but you can adjust the sails. You cannot stop the storm from coming, but you can choose whether to stand firm or to collapse. Some will hear this and scoff, saying, "But the world affects me. I cannot pretend it does not." And they are right. The world will touch you. You will feel its heat, its cold, its blows, and its gifts. But there is a difference between being touched by the world and being ruled by it. A soldier feels the rain on the battlefield, but the rain does not decide whether he fights. A sailor cannot command the tide, yet he can steer through it. The one who controls his mind is not immune to life. He is simply unshaken by it. Consider Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, a man who ruled Rome at the height of its power. He faced plagues, wars, betrayal, and personal loss, and yet in his private writings, he reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. Even in the seat of ultimate authority, he knew that his true kingdom was not the empire, but the space between his ears. For the mind is the only throne from which you can rule without resistance. And here lies the challenge. You must train the mind as you would train the body. If you leave it undisciplined, it will grow weak, reactive, and easily conquered. Just as an untrained hand trembles when holding a sword, the untrained mind falters when holding a thought. Every day the world will offer you countless temptations to abandon this training. It will bait you with anger, with envy, with fear. It will whisper that you are a victim of circumstance. But if you yield to this, you remain at the mercy of forces that will never obey you. So how do you take back this control? You begin with awareness. The next time you feel anger rising, stop and ask, is this truly within my control? When anxiety grips you, ask, can I act upon this, or is this beyond my reach? If it is within your reach, act with reason. If it is not, release it, for holding it is as useless as clutching smoke. This is not detachment for the sake of coldness. It is detachment for the sake of strength. In time, you will see that this practice does not make life dull. It makes it clearer. You will still feel joy, but it will not depend on fragile conditions. You will still feel sorrow, but it will not destroy you. You will still encounter challenge, but you will not be shattered by it. You will walk through life like a man walking through a marketplace, aware of the noise and chaos, yet focused on his path, buying only what he chooses. When you master this truth, change becomes inevitable, because you will no longer waste your strength on battles you cannot win. You will no longer try to wrestle the wind into submission. Instead, you will set your sails and harness its power. The mind that is anchored in its own sovereignty is like a fortress that no army can breach. And when you have such a fortress, you no longer fear the world outside its walls. You can stand in the storm and say, as the Stoics did, do your worst. I remain my own. If there is one truth people try hardest to avoid, it is this: you cannot change without discomfort. We are creatures that crave warmth, ease, and familiarity, and yet all the growth we claim to want waits for us beyond those comforts. Seneca wrote that a gem cannot be polished without friction, and a man cannot be perfected without trial. This is not a poetic exaggeration. It is the nature of life itself. A tree does not grow strong roots in soft soil without wind pressing against its trunk. A muscle does not grow without strain and tearing. A soul does not grow without enduring that which it would rather escape. The tragedy is that most people spend their lives running from precisely the conditions that would transform them. We see pain as an enemy rather than a craftsman, and so we hide from it, numb ourselves to it, or try to bargain with it. But the Stoic understands that the very things we call our problems are often the hands shaping us into who we must become. Life will give you resistance not to destroy you, but to temper you. The same fire that melts wax hardens steel. It is only a question of what you are made of. When you begin to see discomfort as a forge rather than a punishment, your relationship to it changes entirely. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this making of? Instead of seeing hardship as a sign that life is unfair, you see it as proof that life believes you can be more than you are now. To a man who wants comfort above all, this sounds like madness. But to the one who seeks mastery, this is the only sane way to live. Think of every great figure who has shaped the world. Philosophers, leaders, innovators. None of them emerged from a life of uninterrupted ease. Marcus Aurelius became the man we still read today, not because life was kind to him, but because it was unrelenting. He buried children, fought wars, endured plagues, and ruled a fractious empire. And yet he met each difficulty not with despair, but with discipline, saying to himself, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He knew that discomfort was not a barrier. It was the path itself. The truth is, we do not become who we are in moments of comfort. Comfort breeds stagnation, and stagnation rots the spirit. When you sit too long in safety, your mind begins to shrink, your courage fades, and your resilience softens. You may not notice it at first, but the day will come when life tests you, and you will realize that your armor has grown thin. By avoiding discomfort, you will have trained yourself for weakness. The Stoic reverses this. He trains himself for strength by deliberately stepping into challenge. This does not mean recklessness. Stoicism is not about courting needless suffering, but about facing the necessary suffering with an open hand instead of a clenched fist. It is about rising each day prepared to encounter difficulty and saying, this too will be a teacher to me. You may not be able to control the size of the obstacle, but you can always control the size of your response to it. And with each trial you endure, you prove to yourself that you are not as fragile as your comfort once made you believe. At first, discomfort will feel like an intruder in your life. It will unsettle you, irritate you, and make you question why you chose this path. But over time, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes the fire in which your old self is burned away, leaving only what is essential. Just as a swordsmith removes impurities through repeated strikes, life will remove the parts of you that cannot withstand the heat. Weak habits will fall away, shallow fears will lose their grip, and false desires will be exposed for the distractions they are. In this way, discomfort becomes not an enemy, but a friend that speaks the truth others are too gentle to say. Comfort will flatter you, telling you you're fine as you are. Discomfort will tell you you can be more. Comfort will keep you safe but stagnant. Discomfort will wound you, but in doing so will wake you. Which voice will you choose to listen to? Once you begin to embrace this, you will start to notice an unexpected transformation. You will stop fearing challenge, and you may even begin to seek it. Not because you enjoy suffering for its own sake, but because you recognize what it creates in you. You will see that every difficult conversation, every physical strain, every moment of uncertainty is a form of training. And when life throws you into deeper waters, you will swim, not because the sea has grown kinder, but because you have grown stronger. This is why those who run from discomfort rarely change. They keep their world small, their mind dull, and their spirit untested. And then they wonder why their life feels empty. Change demands that you willingly walk into the forge, knowing it will burn away the parts of you that cannot endure. The heat is not there to destroy you. It is there to reveal you. And the day you stop resisting it is the day you stop fearing life itself. When you can meet discomfort with steady eyes and an open will, you no longer live in dread of what might happen tomorrow. You no longer cling to what is easy because you know that ease is not where greatness is found. You become like the warrior who trains in the rain, knowing that if he can fight there, he can fight anywhere. And when others are paralyzed by the storm, you will be moving forward, not because the path is smooth, but because you have learned to walk it, no matter how rough it becomes. Desire is not the enemy. Without desire, we would not plant seeds, pursue knowledge, or build empires. It is the spark that can light the fire of action. But without discipline, that spark becomes a wildfire, consuming instead of creating. The Stoics understood that to be ruled by desire is not freedom. It is a subtle form of slavery. You may think you are making choices, but if every choice is dictated by whatever craving or impulse happens to appear in the moment, you are not the master of your life. You are merely following orders from your appetites. We live in a world that worships desire. Every advertisement tells you to treat yourself. Every social feed presents something else you must have. Every voice whispers that happiness is just one more purchase, one more indulgence, one more moment of ease away. And yet, the more we feed desire without restraint, the hungrier it becomes. Like a cup with no bottom, it cannot be filled. It can only demand more. This is why the Stoics place such emphasis on self-control. To indulge every urge is to weaken the will, and the will is the very engine of change. Discipline is not about denying yourself all pleasures. It is about deciding which pleasures are worthy of you. It is about asking, does this serve the life I seek, or does it steal from it? Without that filter, you will find yourself saying yes to things that take you further from your goals while convincing yourself they are harmless. Every late-night distraction, every unplanned indulgence, every time you abandon a task because you don't feel like it, these are small surrenders. And small surrenders accumulate until they define your character. The Stoics would train themselves to resist impulses, not because they wanted to suffer, but because they knew freedom comes from mastery over the self. Epictetus reminded his students, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That mastery does not appear by accident. It is forged in moments when desire collides with reason. You may want to sleep in, but discipline tells you to rise and face the day. You may want to speak in anger, but discipline keeps your tongue until your judgment clears. You may want to quit when a task feels heavy, but discipline reminds you that the weight is the very thing making you stronger. Think about the people you admire most, the ones whose lives you wish to emulate. I guarantee you they did not arrive there by doing only what was easy or convenient. They trained their desires to serve their purpose rather than letting their purpose be swallowed by desire. A bodybuilder does not always want to train. A writer does not always feel inspired to write. A leader does not always enjoy making hard decisions, but they act anyway. And that is the difference between those who shape their lives and those who drift through them. In many ways, discipline is an act of love for your future self. When you refuse the temptation that would steal your time or weaken your resolve, you are giving a gift to the person you are becoming. And this love is not sentimental, it is firm. It says, I will not allow you to settle for less than what you are capable of, even if it means you are uncomfortable now. In the moment, this may feel like restriction, but over time, it feels like freedom. For the man who can say no to himself can also say yes to what truly matters. There is also a hidden danger in a life without discipline. Your sense of self begins to erode. When you cannot trust yourself to follow through, when you break promises to yourself as easily as breathing, you begin to see yourself as unreliable. This quiet self-betrayal eats at confidence far more than any failure imposed from outside. Discipline restores that trust. Each time you keep a commitment to yourself, no matter how small, you prove that your word has weight. And when your word has weight to you, it begins to carry weight with others as well. The path to this kind of mastery is simple in principle, but difficult in practice. Start by commanding yourself in small things. Wake at the time you said you would. Finish the task you said you would finish. Hold your tongue when you feel the sting of provocation. Each time you do, you reinforce the truth that you are the one steering the ship. And when the storms of life come, and they will, you will already be trained to hold your course, no matter how strong the winds of impulse. Desire will never disappear. The Stoics did not seek to kill desire, they sought to govern it. Without discipline, desire becomes a ruler that is never satisfied, always demanding, always restless. With discipline, desire becomes a servant, a powerful one that works in service of your highest aims. You cannot remove the pull of comfort, of pleasure, of ease, but you can decide that the pull of purpose is stronger. And here is the paradox. When you master your desires, you enjoy pleasures more deeply, because they are no longer constant, they are no longer dull. A feast means little to the man who feasts every day, but to the disciplined man, even a simple meal feels rich. The same is true for every aspect of life. Discipline sharpens appreciation. It is not the chains of restriction. It is the structure that allows you to build something worth living for. So if you wish to change your life, begin not with what you want, but with what you will refuse. Strengthen the will, and desire will take its rightful place, not as a tyrant, but as an ally. Only then can you be sure that your path is your own, and not simply the sum of your cravings. One of the most corrosive ideas a person can carry is the belief that life owes them something. It is a belief so subtle that it often hides in the background of our thoughts, shaping our reactions without us noticing. You see it in the quiet resentment when opportunities don't appear, in the bitterness when effort goes unrewarded, in the complaint that fate has been unfair. But the Stoics would tell you that the universe made you no promises. It owes you no success, no comfort, no protection from hardship. The moment you truly accept this, a strange thing happens. Your frustration with the world begins to dissolve, and you discover a freedom you never had before. This is not cynicism, it is clarity. When you expect life to follow your personal script, you are setting yourself up for constant disappointment. The world does not exist to align with your preferences. It moves according to forces far older and greater than you. The rains do not fall because you need them, and they do not stop because you wish them to. People will act according to their nature, not your needs. Fortune will turn toward you one day and away from you the next, without explanation. To be at peace in such a world, you must learn to live without the burden of expectation. Seneca said, "And never complain of that of which it is always in your power to rid yourself." And one of the heaviest burdens you can rid yourself of is the idea that you are entitled to anything beyond the moment you are living. This does not mean you cannot strive for more. It means you understand that whatever you have is a gift, not a debt owed to you. That shift changes everything. A meal becomes more precious when you stop assuming you are guaranteed the next one. A friendship feels richer when you see it as a choice, not an obligation. Even your own health feels different when you understand it is borrowed, not promised. When you believe you are owed, gratitude dies. And without gratitude, joy becomes impossible. The Stoics trained themselves to greet each day as if it were undeserved, because in truth, it is. The air in your lungs this morning could easily have been your last breath yesterday. Every moment you live is one you could have been denied, and yet, here you are. You have eyes to see, ears to hear, hands to work with, and a mind to think. This may sound like sentiment, but it is the bedrock of resilience. When you see each moment as a gift, you are less likely to waste it and far less likely to poison it with complaint. There is also a deeper danger in the belief that you are owed. It makes you passive. If the world owes you, then the responsibility for your life lies somewhere out there. In luck, in other people, in the system. And if the responsibility lies out there, so does the power. But the Stoics knew that to give away responsibility is to surrender control. If nothing is owed to you, then whatever you want, you must create. And the moment you accept that, you reclaim your power to act. This is why men and women who expect nothing are often the ones who achieve the most. They do not sit in the waiting room of life, hoping someone will open the door. They build their own door, or they learn to thrive in the room they are in. They work without the guarantee of reward because they understand that the work itself is the reward. Every victory, when it comes, is received with gratitude, not because it was owed, but because it was earned. You can see this in history's great figures. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, never allowed himself to believe that life's gifts were permanent or deserved. He reminded himself daily that everything could be taken, and therefore everything should be appreciated now. That mindset did not make him bitter. It made him deeply present. It kept him humble in success and steady in loss. And that steadiness is something anyone can cultivate, no matter their station. Imagine for a moment that tomorrow you woke up with nothing, no possessions, no status, no guarantees. Imagine that the only thing you had was the breath in your lungs and the ability to choose your next action. That is the truth of every day you live, whether you recognize it or not. All the rest, your comfort, your possessions, your relationships, is fragile. To cling to them as if they are permanent is to invite suffering. To appreciate them while you have them is to live fully. When you release the belief that the world owes you, two powerful things happen. First, you stop resenting reality for not conforming to your desires. Second, you begin to work with the world as it is, rather than fighting it as if it were a thief. This does not mean you stop striving. It means you strive without bitterness. It means you can work toward change without being broken when change comes slowly. It means you can endure loss without the additional wound of feeling cheated. The irony is that when you stop expecting, you often receive more, not because the world has changed, but because your eyes are finally open to what has been there all along. The simple meal, the brief conversation with a friend, the moment of quiet in the morning, these are not small things. They are life itself. And when you no longer measure life against what you think it should be, you begin to see that it has always been more than enough. In the end, the belief that you are owed is a prison of your own making. The moment you walk out of it, you find yourself standing in a world that is no longer hostile, but simply indifferent. And in that indifference, there is room for you to live, to act, to build, and to be grateful. The Stoic does not curse the sea for being wild. He learns to sail upon it. Life will not hand you what you want because you want it, but it will hand you this moment, and if you meet it fully, it will be more than enough. There is one currency you will never earn more of, no matter how clever you are, no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you beg or bargain, and that is time. You can gain money, lose it, and make it again. You can rebuild a home, mend a broken friendship, regain health to some degree. But time is the one resource that is both invisible and irreversible. Every breath you take is a withdrawal from the only account you truly have, and you do not know the balance. The Stoics lived with this awareness in a way that most of us try to avoid, because to face it directly forces you to confront how much of your life is spent as if it were endless. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." This is not meant to make you afraid. It is meant to make you awake. Most people live as if time is abundant, scattering their days on distractions, petty arguments, or the pursuit of things that will not matter a year from now, let alone on their deathbed. They treat hours as if they were infinite, as if tomorrow were promised, as if life were a rehearsal instead of the only performance they get. The Stoic refuses this illusion. He wakes each day knowing it could be his last, and that knowledge makes him deliberate in how he spends his hours. If you want to change your life, you must first understand how much of it you are wasting. Look honestly at your days. How many hours slip away to things you do not truly value? How much time do you spend reacting to trivialities? The comment of a stranger, the headline designed to provoke you, the lure of another hour scrolling through what others are doing. Time thieves are everywhere, and they rarely announce themselves. But the most dangerous thief is not the distraction itself. It is your own lack of vigilance. The Stoics did not measure wealth in coins, but in how they used their time. Seneca warned that people are frugal with their money, but reckless with their days. Though time is the one thing we can never afford to waste, the tragedy is not that life is short, but that we waste so much. Every hour you give to something meaningless is an hour you cannot give to something essential. your craft, your relationships, your growth, your service to others. And when enough hours are squandered, you begin to look back and realize the cost was not measured in minutes, but in missed opportunities to live the life you wanted. There is also a subtle danger in believing you have a plenty of time. It makes you delay what matters most. You tell yourself you will start the book next year, mend the relationship when things calm down, take care of your health after the busy season ends. But the truth is, the perfect time will never come. The longer you delay, the more likely it is you will never begin at all. The Stoics trained themselves to act now, because they knew the future is not a promise. It is a possibility, and the possibility can vanish without warning. To live with the awareness of mortality is not morbid. It is clarifying. It strips away the trivial and exposes what truly matters. Suddenly, grudges seem childish, gossip seems worthless, and the endless pursuit of more for its own sake feels hollow. What becomes important are the things that will matter when your time is up. Did you live with virtue? Did you honor your word? Did you give more than you took? Did you use your gifts while you had them? You may think that living with this urgency would make life frantic, but it does the opposite. When you know your time is limited, you become more intentional, not more hurried. You stop scattering your attention and start pouring it into what counts. You stop saying yes to every request out of fear of missing out, because you understand that every yes is also a no to something else, often something more important. You start asking yourself before every commitment, is this how I want to spend the hours I will never get back? And here lies the quiet power of respecting time. It forces you to live in alignment with your values. If you know you have only a limited supply of days, you are less willing to give them to things that contradict the life you want to live. You begin to guard your time the way you would guard a treasure, because that is exactly what it is. This does not mean you fill every moment with work. It means you fill it with intention. Rest is valuable if it renews you. Leisure is worthy if it brings meaning or connection. But idle waste, the kind that dulls your spirit rather than restores it, that is a theft from your own life. When you see time for what it is, you also stop wishing it away. How often do people say, I can't wait until the weekend, or I wish this year would hurry up and end? They are wishing away their own life. The Stoic knows that every moment, pleasant or difficult, is part of the only span he will ever have, and so he does not throw it away in longing for a different one. Even in hardship, he asks, how can I use this? Because to wish for time to pass is to wish for life itself to be shorter. In the end, the measure of your life will not be in how many days you had, but in how you use them. Change is impossible if you waste the very substance that change requires. Guard your time as if it were gold, because gold can be replaced and time cannot. Live with the knowledge that each day is a page you cannot rewrite. And when the final page turns, may it tell the story of someone who did not spend his hours as if they were endless, but as if they were the rarest thing he ever possessed, because they were. Most people believe their suffering comes from the events that happened to them, when in truth it comes from the story they tell themselves about those events. The Stoics taught that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but the opinions we form about them. An insult on its own is just sound. The words cannot touch you any more than the wind can bruise your skin. It is the meaning you attach to them, the judgment that you have been disrespected, wronged, or diminished, that gives them power over you. The same is true for failure, loss, and hardship. They are neutral until your mind paints them in colors of tragedy or injustice. This is why two people can face the same circumstance and emerge with completely different experiences. One sees a closed door and calls it the end. The other sees the same door and begins looking for a window. One loses a job and sees it as ruin. The other sees it as an invitation to begin something new. The event is the same. The difference lies in the lens through which it is viewed. This is not about blind optimism or pretending that pain does not exist. It is about understanding that your judgments are the frame through which you experience reality, and that you have the power to choose that frame. Marcus Aurelius wrote, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. This is not denial, it is mastery. If you decide that something has the power to wound you, then it will. If you decide it does not, then it cannot. That choice lies entirely within you. Even when life strikes you in ways you cannot avoid, your interpretation of the blow will shape its weight. A heavy burden can be lightened by the meaning you attach to it, and the same burden can crush another person simply because they tell themselves they are being crushed. Changing your judgments requires awareness. Too often, our interpretations are automatic, rooted in habit, ego, or fear. The driver cuts you off, and before you even think, you decide you have been personally attacked. A friend forgets to call, and you decide you are not valued. A plan fails, and you decide you are a failure. These judgments happen so quickly that they feel like truth, but they are not truth. They are choices made in a fraction of a second. The Stoic slows this process down. He asks himself, what happened? What can I know for certain? What story am I adding to it? This pause is where freedom lives. By mastering your judgments, you gain the ability to remain steady in situations that would shake most people. You stop being a puppet pulled by the strings of circumstance. Someone can speak ill of you, and you can remain unmoved because you decide their opinion is not your master. Misfortune can visit you, and you can meet it without despair because you decide that this is an opportunity to practice courage or patience. This is the true strength the Stoics sought, not the power to control the world, but the power to control the meaning of the world as it appears to you. There is a profound peace that comes from this practice. It means you can live in a turbulent world without being in constant turbulence yourself. When events happen, you will still feel the initial stirrings of emotion. No one is made of stone, but you will not be swept away by them. You will see them as passing weather, and you will remember that you are the sky in which that weather moves. The clouds can darken for a time, but the sky remains. It also changes the way you handle success and good fortune. If your judgments can inflate suffering, they can also inflate pleasure to the point where you cling to it desperately, fearing its loss. But when you see both pain and pleasure as passing, you can meet them with the same calm. You can enjoy a moment fully without being chained to it, knowing it will pass as all things do. You can endure difficulty without collapsing under it, knowing it too will pass. This mastery over judgment is not something you gain once and keep forever. It is a practice, a daily discipline. There will be moments when you slip, when an event provokes a judgment before you catch it, when anger or fear take the lead before reason can speak. But each time you catch yourself and correct your perspective, you strengthen the muscle of perception. Over time, you find that you are less easily provoked, less easily discouraged. The same city, the same people, the same challenges remain, but they no longer dominate you. You begin to see that much of what you once called a bad luck or a misfortune was not fate conspiring against you, but simply your own untrained perception. In that realization is a freedom that cannot be taken from you. The Stoics knew that a man who masters his judgments is a man who cannot be truly conquered. Armies can invade his city, wealth can be stripped from him, storms can tear down his home. But if he holds sovereignty over how he sees these events, he remains unbroken. And in the end, that is the only unshakable ground you can stand on. The world will move as it pleases. But your mind, your judgments are yours alone. And when you make them your allies instead of your enemies, no power on earth can make you live in misery against your will. Then remember this, life is not yours to control, only your mind is. Guard it well. For the one who rules himself is freer than any king and stronger than any army.